Hey everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We are live tonight. I'm Bob Pompeani, and we have a lot to get into. We'll talk about the Penguins out west. They're out of the playoff picture now. A lot of hockey left, but is it time for Jim Rutherford to do something? But clearly, the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers and a loss, which everyone thought was a win. And it happened so quickly in a chaotic final 2 minutes. We're going to talk about all the components of that, and here is your panel, left to right on your television screen. We have Tim Benz right over there far left from the Trib and Steelers Radio Network. In the middle, it's Chris Mack from 93.7 The Fan, pre and post host of the Pirates, and much more than that. And, of course, Paul Zeise from 93.7 The Fan, the Paul Zeise Show, and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So we'll begin with just overall thoughts about the play. We'll start with that. Jesse James seemed to have a touchdown. Tim, I'll start with you on that. The rule, in my opinion, needs to be changed. It is too convoluted. It's too much up in the air, and I still don't have conclusive enough evidence. I always thought that if something was called a touchdown, it had to be 100% conclusive. To me, it wasn't. What's your take on that whole play?
It was not conclusive. Beyond the wording and the interpretation of the rule, I don't even know if 100% the ball came free to the point that it should have been overturned. And even if it did come free, did the ground really aid in helping him maintain possession? I don't think it did. So that being said, let's move on to Chapter 2 of what is already being called, and I think rightfully so, the robbery of Jesse James. It's supposed to go the other way. But in this case, I do think he was robbed by a stupid rule, and the water-carrying ombudsman for the NFL refs, guys like Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino and guys like that, are in support of this rule, and I don't know why. This rule needs to be changed. It's too convoluted. It's contradictory at the goal line. I don't know why the goal line ends every other play except a play like this with James, where it should have stopped the moment he had the ball in his hands and crossed the plane of the goal line.
Well, guys, we're in a league now where referees, and God love Gene Steratore, go Washington County boy, where referees are measuring for first downs with pieces of paper between the chain and the ball. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous. We're literally, I know you mentioned pixel by pixel, Pomp, in your sportscast. It is. We're going pixel by pixel. And if you look pixel by pixel, I still don't see for sure, conclusively, that the ball touched the ground. Furthermore, let me read from the rule book right here, okay? The rule book says a player is considered to be going to the ground if he does not remain upright long enough to demonstrate that he is clearly a runner. How was Jesse James not a runner?
That was a football move. I agree.
You. Yeah.
Well, he never had possession of the ball. Look.
How did he
first of all, time. Okay.
How does he?
You guys just had 4 minutes to talk and whine about this call. Now give me a minute to talk about it. Number one, I don't like the rule either, okay? So let's get that out of the way. I'm not defending the rule. It has been very consistently called the way it was called tonight this entire season. There was a play just yesterday in the Chargers-Chiefs game where a guy caught the ball, the very little tip of the ball touched the ground. He had it. He never lost, but it moved as it moved across his body. They called it incomplete because he didn't have control the whole way through the catch. So I don't care if you don't like the rule, because I don't like it either. It was called correctly. The other thing is the pixel-by-pixel stuff. In New York, they have different angles than we have.
Well,
so they probably have an angle where they showed it from the back of the end zone where they could see clearly the ball touched the ground.
I'm okay with the rule. You know why? Because the rule reads, if he does not remain upright long enough to demonstrate that he is clearly a runner. Jesse James was clearly a runner. He's turning for the end zone. How is he not a runner in that situation?
He hadn't taken a step yet. That's why, because he hadn't taken a step yet.
That's another thing.
Well,
he took a step and he moved towards the goal line. Why does it end at the goal line?
No. Because if he would have lost the ball right there, it would have been incomplete.
He has possession when he takes it across the goal line.
He does not have possession.
Totally had possession.
You do not have possession until you finish the catch.
Which should be finished at the goal line.
Very consistent.
It's contradictory, Paul. What are you arguing? It's directly contradictory.
It is not contradictory.
You just contradicted yourself.
No, it's not. It's not contradictory. You have to finish the catch. If you don't finish the catch, it's not a catch. You never had possession.
What is it? When it go to
you
commercial
never
break?
How hard is that to understand?
Went across the goal line.
How hard is that to understand? You never had possession until you finished the catch.
Well, when is it finished? When this segment's over, maybe.
Yes.
Paul, let me ask you a question, Paul.
What?
Why can't it be, to use Mike Tomlin's terminology, a global rule that the plane, once you cross the plane, it's a touchdown?
Because you have to have possession.
Why does a ground.
He turned for the goal line.
Listen, the ground cannot cause a fumble, yet apparently it can cause this. Why is the ground not causing a fumble?
You have to finish the catch, and you have to have possession.
He did.
You don't have possession until you finish the catch.
Paul, the NFL just called. They took back the immaculate extension from AB. Didn't have it long enough.
What's that?
They said it's over. Got to go back a year to Christmas. AB reaching across the goal line. Didn't have it long enough. I mean, like,
he didn't fumble the ball.
At what point before
he didn't lose the ball?
He lost the ball after it went across the goal line.
Yes, it did. He got it swatted away.
He lost the ball. He had it
after it went across.
Exactly.
He was the goal line. He crossed the goal line. It's a touchdown.
And there was 5 guys trying to tackle him, and he was moving, and then he put it across. He clearly had possession of the ball.
So lesson learned.
He wasn't on the ground.
Lesson learned, if nobody's around you, don't you dare reach for the goal line,
he had
Jesse
possession.
James.
He had
nine
possession.
guys are trying to tackle you,
Chris,
by all means.
He had possession, and he wasn't on the ground. The ball never hit the ground. I mean, again, we can go at back and forth. You have to have possession for it to be a touchdown.
Are we all in agreement this rule needs to be changed, and the competition committee should make it agenda number 1 when they next reconvene?
Well, they need to make rules about the goal line, because we saw it before we came on with the Oakland Raiders and Dallas Cowboys tonight, too. They have different rules at the goal line that convolute everything. The ball is fumbled forward at the 43-yard line, and it goes out at the 41 before the 2-minute warning anyway. You bring the ball back. If it goes through the end zone, all of a sudden things change again.
Well,
and the other team
here's
gets
my question. How do you change the rule? Because there's always going to be some standard for what a catch is.
You make it simple.
I understand that, but you've got to have a standard.
You determine with your eyes that he had possession, and he did. No one who watched that, Paul, you'd have to admit, Jesse James had possession of the football based strictly on what is possession, right?
Paul, you don't make a delineation between ball carrier and ball catcher. That's what they're doing to a ridiculous degree.
We got to move on to something else, and that was what transpired after that, because that was even more controversial in the sense of the game. They're clearly in field goal position. Chris Boswell's automatic. All right, so 27-27, everybody's thinking overtime at that point when they don't get that, and yet they call this strange play. So, Chris Mack, when you saw this spike, there wasn't a spike, and there's a lot of controversy about who called it, how it was executed. He threw it right into the middle, Ben Roethlisberger, of 4 different New England Patriots, who Bill Belichick said they were aware that the Steelers, because they showed that play recently when they used it to their advantage against the Dallas Cowboys.
Here's the issue with this. I have no problem with the aggressiveness. I have no problem going for the win. We know Mike Tomlin likes to do that. That's why he's a 2-point conversion guy. I like the call. This is on execution, and Ben Roethlisberger had a great day until he gets up there to the line, and half the team doesn't seem to know if it's a spike play or if it's a fake spike play, and then the Patriots all seem to be on the same page. They're expecting the fake spike. Ben drops back. He sees Eli covered, to your point, by 3 or 4 guys in the end zone. Chuck it into the 3rd row, take the 3 points, go to OT. I think he tried to go for it a bit too much there.
The right side of the line knew a play was coming. The left side did not. If you look at the 2 receivers on the left side, they didn't know a play was coming. Le'Veon Bell is in the backfield putting his mouthpiece back in. It looked like Jesse James was getting ready to block. Eli runs a pattern. Ben should have known at that point when he realized no one else was going to cover the 2 receivers on the left side. Everybody's going to cover Eli. Why are you trying to squeeze the ball into Eli Rogers into quadruple coverage? And by the way, another missed call there by the refs. He was interfered with, but I don't know. But we
I got a kick though. Of course, Ben. He wanted to spike the ball. It was a bad play. It was a bad play. So was Todd Haley's fault.
Right. I mean, one time he didn't want to go for it.
It always works out. Look, the thing I didn't like about it was all the confusion. I have no problem. You got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you still got some pretty good receivers out there. I have no problem going for a touchdown there. But to Tim's point, to Chris's point, the play was so confusing. Nobody seemed to know what was happening. At that point, Ben needs to know, okay, it's not there. Just throw it away. Kick the field goal. Right. So that's really how that went.
We got to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the mismatch that was Gronk once again, what they must do if they're going to face him again, and what this leaves the Steelers with moving forward. Still 2 games left, still in position to get a number 2 seed. We got much more coming up, so don't go away. You're watching the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We are live right here on KDKA-TV. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.